Warning, do not listen to this podcast if hearing about freedom and liberty is not legal for you in your community. And if so, you should immediately move to a hipper community.
Welcome to the Freedom Fiends Podcast, a weekly web lab where Michael W. Dean and Neema Vedadi cover the punk rockinist, hip-hopinist current events, as well as timeless universal truths about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because there's no such thing as half-free. The Freedom Fiends Podcast, available from freedomfiends.com. That's freedomfeens.com.
Rolling. Freedom Fiends.
Neema Vedadi, what's up?
What's up, homie? Check. All right. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I'm calmly meditating in a room full of guns. How about you?
I'm calmly meditating in a room full of guns while we demonstrating a stack full of funds. I don't pack cause it's fun. I'm the Mac and the one dude I can count on to fight back. If attacked, I blast on them bums. Yeah.
That's pretty good. I'd like to put you in my basement and produce you on that.
Word.
It's good off the cuff first thing in the morning. It's early. It's hella early. So Jason Sorens, who started the Free State Project, just came out with his new list of freedom in the 50 states. And your state, Washington, doesn't do very well on it.
I believe it. I don't feel very free here. Wyoming
is number 21 out of 50, which isn't very good, but basically they're factoring in the gay marriage stuff here and the harsh drug laws, which, I don't like, but neither of them apply to me, but so I feel free.
That's the point of the list though, right? Is freedom. I mean, they may not apply to you, but like we say in our movie, you got to fight for other people's freedoms too.
Gee, that's an interesting concept, Neema. Thank you for turning me on to that. I'll consider that in all future art that I do. I'm just pulling on your wiener. Me and Neema are video casting for the first time today.
Yeah.
Which y'all can't see, but I can see him. He looks sleepy. He's sleepy. So sleepy. What's that from? So sleepy.
So sleepy. Call back later.
What's that from?
That's how we used to... There's this place called, the Valley in between Texas and Mexico, like Brownsville and places like that, Matamoros. We would always say that that's how people talk there back in Texas. So sleepy, call back later.
You know that song Smoking in the Boys Room?
Yeah.
You know who that's by? Brownsville Station.
Okay.
That's the name of the band.
Okay.
So go on.
Anyway, yeah, I used to work at this. It was kind of like a call center. We would call and get info from people on stolen money projects. Or I guess they called them public money projects, So subcontractors could go in and do work. There's this one place I called, and they talked like that all the time. She'd be like, "Oh, I don't know, call back later." And sometimes she'd always answer. It was an architect's office, but every time she picked up the phone, she'd go, "Architect's office." Who does that? Like when I call Domino's, they don't go pizza store. They go Domino's Pizza. She would always say, "Architect's office."
So Washington State is 40 out of 50 for freedom.
That makes sense,
The least free states in order. Number 50 is New York. 49 is New Jersey. 48 is California. 47 is Hawaii. And 46 is Massachusetts.
What was the number one least free state?
New York.
Okay. That sounds...
Where I'm from.
Yeesh. Was it always like that? Has New York been exponentially growing less free? I mean, especially since 9/11, I would think.
Absolutely. I mean, they've got senators like Anthony Weiner and, what's her name? Clinton. Hillary Clinton was a senator.
Right. I love the whole Weiner scandal just because of the subtitles on the bottom of the screen of news channels. Weiner admits contact to 6 women.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting side current of that's not getting a lot of play. The reason most Democrats aren't loudly yelling for him to step down, and do you know why that is?
No, I saw a bit on it, but I honestly haven't been following it too much. What is it?
Well, at least New York State Democrats are not pushing him to step down. Even New York State Republicans. Here's why. With the new census, they have lower population for parts of New York than they used to, so they're redistricting and they're removing 2 districts from New York.
I see.
One Republican and one Democrat, and the politicians there aren't going to push for him to step down because if he doesn't step down, his will absolutely be one of the districts they get rid of, and he'll be out that way.
Right.
But if they don't, it's like if the guy in the neighboring district pushes real hard for him to step down, he might be the one.
Right. And I think that's a good example of how party politics, especially in the two-party system, skews people's morals. Like, these are people that they'd call for him to step down if it weren't up to the party politics. But because he's part of their team, go blue, they have to keep their mouth quiet about something they'd be voicing, if the case were different.
Yep. And I have no problem with, anyone sending pictures of themselves naked to an adult.
Yeah.
He's married, which is between him and his wife.
Right.
But I have a problem with him lying about it, and lying so voraciously about it.
Yeah, I guess I have a problem, but that's what makes a popular politician these days, right? It's just a lying contest. Who's better at making you feel good about the lies they're telling you?
I know. They're going to throw him under the bus just to make them all look better. If lying kept you from being a politician, there wouldn't be many politicians.
Right.
Or any. It'd be like Ron Paul and Rand Paul.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think the catch is that because they all lie, that just when one of them becomes out of favor or if there's some kind of internal politics, then they can, throw him out.
Yeah. Well, he's a gun-grabbing nanny state and so f*** him.
Yeah.
Wiener.
F that.
F Wiener.
F Wiener. F***ing Wiener. Yeah.
Well, another thing I've heard of, like, why scandals like this are dangerous is because it makes people blackmailable for their vote.
How so?
Because the girl that he sent the pictures to could, instead of going in public with it, she could have said, okay, you have to vote this way on this bill or I'm turning you in.
Yeah, which is just sickening to think that that's the kind of stuff that could theoretically drive legislation or even the butterfly effect. All these little decisions like that, that aren't necessarily geared towards people's best interests, but are little political decisions that end up coloring, what they enforce on us. And they enforce it hard these days.
Yeah. That's enough of that, unless you got more.
No, I think we should talk about some guns some more.
Okay. Guns.
I mean, we started off with calmly meditating in a room full of guns.
Yeah. I posted the Guns and Weed film link on an old friend of mine's Facebook a few days ago, and I asked her to hit share, and she wrote me offline or off board and said, respectfully, I want to explain to you why I didn't share it. It's because I don't believe in guns because I don't believe in violence. And that's just ridiculous. And obviously she didn't watch the film either, or it didn't hit home, but it's like, owning guns is not a violent act. You even say that in the movie. Right.
Part of our movie is about being against violence. It's about being against state violence.
Yep.
And guns are a big part of that. If you defend yourself in a situation, if somebody's attacking you, I think of it as preventing violence, because if somebody attacks you, they're going to commit violence. If they end up killing you, they committed a violent act. But if you end up killing them in self-defense, I don't consider that a violent act. You're protecting life, your own.
Here's a good one. In England recently, police have been warning homeowners not to use wire mesh on windows to keep thieves out, because the thieves might get hurt breaking in and sue the homeowner.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yeah, that's so British. That's so square, man.
Yeah, that is so square. Yeah, it seems like you always get those really scary nanny state, creepy, 10 years more fascist than us stories coming out of England.
Well, remember, you ever see the movie Liar, Liar?
Yeah.
It's not an English movie, but, the whole plot of it, it's a comedy about a lawyer who can't stop lying. And one of the examples of what a dishonest person is he defends a burglar who cuts himself falling through someone's skylight while breaking into their house.
Yeah. I actually didn't remember that plot line. All I remember is Jim Carrey being goofy. I saw it when I was really young.
Yeah. So I got a freedom fix.
You got a freedom fix.
Freedom fix.
Freedom fix.
Yeah.
All right.
And, more and more freedom fixes are just undoing a tyranny today. But
yeah,
remember
that's the point, right? That it's fixing it with freedom.
Well, in a perfect world where everything was free, what would our freedom fixes look like?
I don't know. I guess they'd just be examples of how great everything was.
They'd be like, generous industrialist gives away guns to starving children or something,
Right.
Or gives away a bunch of guns and weed to everybody. So do you remember the case in Casper of the woman who found a wallet that someone had lost in Casper, Wyoming, and she called the police to see if anyone had reported it, and they said no, and she was going to mail it to the guy. It was a guy from Colorado. His ID and his address were in there and everything, and the police showed up at her house and demanded the wallet. And she said, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to him myself. I'm going to mail it to him. I was just checking to see if he had called and was in town. And they arrested her for resisting arrest and, I don't know, something else, disturbing the peace or something ridiculous. And the DA, like, pushed and pushed and pushed to actually, you know, make a fool of himself to get this, to prosecute her. And,
really?
And it got dropped, and then he tried to do it again, but it's under double indemnity. He can't. Is that what it's called? Final Jeopardy? No, double
Jeopardy.
Double Jeopardy. Yeah.
You were half there each time. We just had to blend them together.
Yeah. Final Jeopardy.
No, I remember that. But, I remember reading the blurb when it first happened, but I don't remember it going to court. I think I left.
She's free. Then. She's free.
That's great. But
she's free. I mean, she probably owes a bunch of legal fees. And you know, something interesting I noticed about it in the Tribune, in the paper, Casper Tribune, when she was first arrested, the comments were about half people saying, this is ridiculous, the police are overstepping their bounds, and about half people saying, she should be arrested. She should have just done what the cop said. But once she was adjudicated by the courts, it was like 80% people saying good for her, and only about 20% saying the police are right.
Right. Yeah.
You know, people have to be told what's right.
Yeah, and I think that's really... It sickens me, and I see it all the time in comments everywhere. You know, anytime an authority is involved, you know, a quote-unquote authority, somebody who has state power, people just fawn and they bow down. And they don't think anything's true unless it's released by the officials. And if it is released by the officials, they just believe it's, you know, the word of God. It's almost as if the state has replaced God in a lot of people's minds. One of the things I see here, too, is on stories here in town about people that are on trial, everybody assumes they're guilty. And if it's something like child molestation or just anything, theft even, people will say, you know, lock them up, throw away the key, or kill them now, or send all the gang members to an island and just bomb them.
That's kind of scary because those people are on juries.
Yeah, those people are on juries, and it's like you were saying earlier, if the SWAT team shows up, then people are going to be more likely to think, oh, they're very, 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 very bad. You know, the SWAT team had to come out. But
I think there should be a test to be on a jury. I think you should have to know the Bill of Rights.
Yeah. I think that's one regulation I would probably agree with. You have to...
A minarchist suggestion.
Right. I'd like them to know the Bill of Rights, and I'd like them to know about jury nullification. I think that's the big one.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I mean, I think that's one of the most important ones. We've lost that idea as the jury. They're the last defense between the state and you, the last legal, I guess, defense between the state and you.
Explain jury nullification for anyone who doesn't know what it is.
Well, that's the idea that not only is the person on trial, but really the law is on trial. If it's an unjust law and you don't feel a person should be thrown in a cage or killed because they're smoking a joint or doing whatever, anything, you have the right as a jury to not vote that person guilty. You have a right to say what you think.
And most jury instructions contradict that, because a lot of jury instructions or closing argument instructions from prosecutors will say something to the effect of, you're not here to judge the law, you're here to judge yes or no, did the person do it?
Right. But that's not necessarily the case. And in a free society, you have to, if a jury is going to serve any purpose as far as making society more free, that's the purpose. It's that they're people, they can form a brick wall between the violence of the state and you. They can form a brick wall by saying, you know, you say this person should go to jail for years because he was selling meth, but we believe it's a peaceful exercise of commerce, so you're not going to throw him in a cage. They can do that. That's what a jury can do, and serve that as a role in a free society.
The legality of jury nullification is ambiguous. There's some Supreme Court rulings that say some aspects of it are legal, and some that say other aspects of it are legal or illegal. Technically, it's legal, but people have been thrown in jail for jury tampering for handing out pamphlets in front of courthouses about jury nullification.
Right.
Recently.
And I think that's an important example of the fatal flaw of our judicial system, which is, in the end, who gets to decide what happens? It's the judges. So they're always going to rule in favor of the state because they work for the state. There's a conflict of interest there that's inherent.
There's another Wyoming, I guess this is back to Tyranny Today.
And now, the Neema News with Neema Vedadi.
And now, for your daily dose of nanny-statism in our daily segment, Tyranny Today.
Tyranny Today.
The Wyoming Supreme Court recently voted 5-0 that it was acceptable for schools to drug test students in Goshen County who want to be in extracurricular activities like drama clubs, sports, whatever, debate, whatever.
They'd been mulling that around for a while. It's a fact now that all students...
Yeah.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were talking about that a couple of years ago when I was there.
I mean, technically, they're probably right because the schools own the kids, which is wrong.
Right. Yeah, and I think I saw some cases about, I don't know if it was Florida or somewhere down southeast-ish, that they're going to start thinking about drug testing people on welfare. What do you think about that?
I like it better than drug testing students.
I do too.
Anything that reduces welfare, I might be able to be talked into. I'm not thrilled about it. I think everyone's into half measures. I think that's a half measure. I think the answer is eliminate welfare.
Exactly.
I think that arguing about drug testing in public schools is a half measure. I think you should eliminate public schools. But
yes,
we live in a world with rules and laws, and I mean that's a tough one because I'm in favor of new laws that reduce impositions on personal rights, like the Wyoming concealed carry without a permit. That's a new law. Like, theoretically, an anarchist should be like, no new law is good. I'm in favor of one more law if it undoes a bad law. And I'm also in favor of anything that reduces public taxation. But it's kind of a wiggler because it's reducing public taxation but also infringing on rights.
Right. Well, the thing is, you don't have a right to welfare. You don't have a right to other people's money. So when it comes to a case like that, I don't think you could say that law is protecting another right.
It's a real Christian Sharian kind of attitude towards welfare reduction.
Yeah.
Or even a liberal, agnostic Sharian. It's a fatwa.
It's a fatwa. It's a progressive fatwa.
That's my new thing. We're talking about Christian Sharians. I want to start using the word fatwa. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's fatwa. Probably different depending on what country you're from because of the accent and whatnot.
A lot of people have a misnomer of what a fatwa is. A lot of Americans think it means yelling for someone's head. It can be that, but it can also be like, you should dress this way doing this thing. It's basically just...
Edict. It's almost like edict.
It's an edict, yeah. It's a law without going through the law, and they could be issued by an ayatollah, down to an imam, down to just, a mufti. I
could issue a fatwa. You could issue a fatwa. It's just saying something.
Yeah.
Nobody will listen to it, but we could do it.
If they're issued by an imam, it's not a national thing that everyone has to do, like if it's an ayatollah, but it's, it's the people that follow him may do it. And do you remember the Cat Stevens scandal?
Yeah, he grew a beard and changed his name to Yusuf Islam. Is that the scandal or did something else happen?
No, that's not the scandal. I mean, he was like a peace-loving hippie folk singer from the 60s. I really liked his stuff a lot. He did all the music for the movie Harold and Maude, which is one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
Then he, overnight, just became a Muslim. And, it was like, people were like, oh, cool, interesting, Middle Eastern, theology, that's interesting.
Right.
But then when Salman Rushdie wrote that book, The Satanic Verses, it mocked Islam.
Right. And the Ayatollah Khomeini put a fatwa saying he should be killed.
Yeah. No, it was his head should be removed, I believe.
Okay.
Not just killed, but, off with his head. And Cat Stevens issued a press release that he agreed with that. Ugh. And all of a sudden, people were burning Cat Stevens records. And I remember this band, 10,000 Maniacs, that was from the town I was from. They did a Cat Stevens song called Peace Train. I'm riding on the Peace Train on one of their records. And Warner Brothers pulled it from subsequent pressings, took that song off the record after Cat Stevens said...
I didn't know he'd made that statement.
I'm riding the peace train to cut off heads.
Well, was he misquoted? I mean, what has he rescinded it?
No.
Or he hasn't distanced
I don't know if he's
himself
rescinded it, but it was pretty shocking.
Yeah,
because he was really peaceful, peace and love, groovy, hippie, mellow folk singer, and then all of a sudden he's like off with his head.
Right. For writing a book, which back in the day, those kind of people were probably all for free speech, I'd imagine.
I know. Free speech when it suits you.
Right.
Just like the Democrats and the Republicans. So, yeah. Oh, and another interesting Wyoming Sharian thing. There was a couple that was gay married in a different state and then moved here and then decided they wanted a divorce. The Bible thumpers here were up in arms. Like, that's recognizing... I think they'd be into it. It's like one less gay marriage in the world, but they didn't want the Wyoming courts to give them a divorce. But
right, because that would be saying, oh, you have to get married first before you can get divorced.
Yeah.
So,
but... The Wyoming Supreme Court got it right on that one this week. They allowed it.
Oh, really? Huh, okay.
Yeah.
A broken clock is right, 2 times a day.
Maybe their argument was that's one less gay marriage in the world. Yeah. So I had someone quote our movie today. Someone said he was at work. He said, Brian Combs said, an hour ago at work, I heard a coworker say, the war against drugs is a war against us. And he stumbled across our movie, and he was quoting it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's I think Mac says that in the movie.
And speaking of our movie, you have some news about our movie, don't you?
Yeah. The whole movie was up on YouTube. It's 16 different chapters, and it's been up for free. You could watch the whole movie for about 6 months now, and we decided this week to take a lot of it off, so you can only watch the first 4 chapters now, because we're selling DVDs, and it's getting shown in some film festivals, and more film festivals will show it if it's not all up on the internet.
Can we plug where it's getting shown right now? Let people know if they're in the area.
Yeah.
Go check it out. Pork Fest for one.
Pork Fest. Explain what... That sounds like a meat tasting contest. Explain what Pork Fest is.
Pork Fest. I mean, that's the Free State, New Hampshire guys, right? They're just having a big festival for freedom. You worked with them. Didn't you make a commercial with porcupines?
Yeah, I did. And maybe I'll put that on the website because it's good. And I also found out recently that Google gives a higher ranking in searches to pages that have video on them.
Ah, really? Oh.
Do you know that? Yeah, like 10 times as much weight.
That sounds good. When did that start? That's a good idea.
Probably when they bought YouTube.
Okay.
I don't know.
Probably. I really like how the web is getting more visual. I think pretty soon the web will just replace TVs altogether.
Although, I still don't like sites that are really media heavy when they don't need to be.
If it pushes it on you, I want to click on it. Don't show me the video once I open the page and load it.
Right. And if it's huge, I want to know how big what I'm clicking on is. So the world theatrical premiere of Guns and Weed is June 22nd at 6 p.m. Wednesday at the Philadelphia Independent Film Festival. And I think they're going to do 2 showings there because it's already like selling out, or not selling out, but the first showing is getting a lot of popularity. So I think they're going to add 1. And you can go to gunsandweed.com and click over on the far right where it says showings of the film. And it has that information. And then it's showing the next day, Thursday, June 23rd, in the media room at 10:30 p.m. at Pork Fest in Lancaster, New Hampshire, on the Free State Project.
And speaking of that, we got some bad press from a bad website. So really, it's good press for us with regards to the showing at Pork Fest. Yeah.
Yep. And the New Jersey Libertarian Party is hosting a showing of it July 9th in Morganville, New Jersey, outdoors under the stars, and I'll have more information about that soon.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I didn't even know about that one. That's news to me.
Yep. I like springing stuff on you because then we get your real, like, wow, or that's horrible, or that's wonderful.
You get my initial response. I was always better at reacting than planning anyway.
Yep. So,
I think we should jump into the USA Survival website, knocking on Adam Kokesh's stunt at the Jefferson Memorial, and in it, also attacking our movie.
Yep. So first of all, I want to give a correction. Last episode, we were talking about him, and you and me called him Adam Koresh, which is not his name. Oh, it's Adam Kokesh.
Ah, okay.
It was me, I think.
Okay.
No, Koresh was the guy who ran the
David Koresh. Waco.
Yeah,
victim of the state.
Different guy. Different victim of the state.
Yeah.
So read this little blurb from this site called usasurvival.org, which is a Christian Sharian right-wing faux Tea Party neocon site, talking about Adam Kokesh's thing where he and a bunch of people had a flash mob and went to the Jefferson Memorial and danced and got arrested and thrown to the ground and body slammed and abused by the police on video for dancing.
Yeah. You want me to start from the beginning? All right. No violence occurred at the memorial, but my video of the event showed that several of the Kokesh groupies got extremely overheated and anxious when they realized that their hero was on the defensive over his relationship with his Russian paymasters. Their next stop, according to a flyer distributed at the memorial, is an event called Pork Fest, where the agenda includes topics such as a stateless society, transhumanism, anarchist organization, and the screening of a film called Guns and Weed. Oh no! These dangerous oddballs are trying to infiltrate the Tea Party movement. Yeah, right. Ron Paul should disavow them. Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think it's really relevant to point out no violence occurred at the memorial, but it did. Adam Kokesh was thrown to the ground and body slammed. People were
by the government
grabbed and manhandled. But I guess because the state did the violence, they don't consider it violence. That's just public policy.
Right. First, I want to point out that Pork Fest is not about the meat pork. It's porcupine is the symbol of the Free State Project in New Hampshire.
Right.
And there's some great comments about this. Mike Freeslade Walker said about the guy's statement that we're infiltrating the Tea Party movement, said, great idea, infiltrate it and then insert the concepts of liberty and private property.
Right.
The really hilarious and hypocritical and backward thing about this whole thing is the guy writing this is among the people infiltrating the Tea Party, because the true Tea Party movement really came out of the 2007 Ron Paul money bomb and tax day protest.
Right.
And then got co-opted by the Sarah Palin type people.
Yeah.
And Fox News. And a bunch of the people that are putting on PorcFest and going to PorcFest, the Free State people, a lot of them were very involved in that original 2007 event.
But now they want to have nothing to do with the warmongers that have sort of taken it over. The scary, we must kill more brown people part of the Tea Party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And by scary, I mean they're scared. They're fearful, not they're scary to me, because I ain't scared of them.
Yeah. And then he said, the use of young people as cannon fodder for a revolution in the U.S. is reminiscent of what Students for a Democratic Society spawned in the 60s. Bernadine Dorn said, "We fight in many ways. Dope is one of our weapons. The laws against marijuana mean that millions of us are outlaws long before we actually split from society. Guns and grass are united in the youth underground." And then he says, "The guns and grass mantra is now guns and weed in the new film that Kokesh and his followers are promoting. What a coincidence."
Well, I take that as a compliment. I mean,
you can't buy press like this.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
That's great. I totally dig that he's comparing us with the freedom movement, but he's acting as if that's a bad thing.
And I don't know that Kokesh is promoting our film. I don't know that Kokesh has heard of our film. Yeah.
Maybe he'll have us on his new show. Have you watched the new show on, Russia Today?
I love the new show.
Adam versus the Man. Yeah, it's pretty great.
He's taking a lot of crap for taking a Russian paycheck, but
I'd work for him. I'd work for them.
I'd work for them. I'd work for them too.
I mean, I'm in TV media, and I hate. Well, I would much rather work for a company that would let me report the way I wanted to report. The rest of you don't have the video feed, so you can't see Neema smiling in embarrassment that he had to just soften what he said for the sake of his paymasters. Yeah, it is sickening to me. But the thing about Russia TV is, yeah, it might be owned by Russians, but when it comes to your show, they just let you have freedom. They let you have the free speech that you can't get if you work on CNN, that you couldn't get if you worked on Fox.
Russia Today has more truth than CNN or Fox or MSNBC.
Right. I would really love to see somebody like Judge Napolitano on Russia TV one day. I know he's great on Fox. He's amazing on Fox.
He's got a contractual thing. Kokesh talked about that.
I know.
Kokesh was on Judge Napolitano's show, and then Kokesh wanted to have Judge Napolitano on Kokesh's show.
Right.
And Fox wouldn't let the judge do it.
Right.
They're probably paying so much money to...
well, that makes sense. I mean, they wouldn't let any...
They want to own him. They've bought him, and they want to own him for a while, and they're letting him do what he wants to do, so let him do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I also can't believe that this guy's comparing us to SDS, Students for a Democratic Society. I fucking hate them. They're not around anymore. They're from the 60s, but that's a group that wanted to basically overthrow United States by force and turn it into a communist country.
Right.
I'm very anti-communist.
But at the time, see, they were also I guess they weren't anti-state, though, right? They were
anti-war.
They were anti-war.
Like a lot of anti-state people, or some anti-state people, they wanted to get rid of the state and replace it with their own state.
Right.
What's the writer that came and spoke at, guy who tried to blow up the Pentagon, that there was a big furor when he tried to come speak at University of Wyoming?
William Ayers, yeah.
He was part of SDS. Now he's working for the man. He's a tenured college professor who's trying to reform the educational system to be more about teaching wealth redistribution and social justice.
Well, they just realize you don't attack the state head on with violence if you want to change the state. You infiltrate it from within. I guess that only really works if you want to be part of the state, because that's what they all became. They became the apparatus that keeps us all oppressed now.
I don't hate that technique, but I don't like the ends that SDS were going for.
Right. I guess my point is, why don't we talk about replacing the state with nothing rather than replacing the state with another state?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like saying, I'm not anti-slavery. I don't want you to be the slave master. Give me your slaves.
Right.
Don't set them free. Just give them to me.
I think a lot of those people wanted to be the slave masters.
Yeah.
They wanted to impose social justice at the barrel of a gun.
Exactly. And so we can't co-sign that. We co-sign true freedom. The idea that you own you. We don't want to. We want to set you free to where you're your own master. You are your own master, not somebody else's. One day, I think we are moving in the direction of freedom, and I think in the end, the state is old. I think they're outdated now. I think technology is going to replace the state as far as, now I can talk to anybody in the whole wide world. I can really buy anything from anybody in the whole wide world, and I don't need any kind of bureau or bureaucrat to aid me or assist in that process one iota. once people realize that, then there's no need for them. Why should we be paying taxes? Why should we have devalued money? Why should we have any of the horrible problems, getting beat up by cops and having SWAT teams come to extract our student loans? Why should we have any of that when there's no purpose for it?
Talk about that. Somebody got their door knocked in by a SWAT team from the Department of Education because they were trying to collect on a defaulted college loan from his estranged wife who didn't even live there. And they came in, broke the door down with guns drawn, and held him and his kids captive in police cars for 6 hours, scaring the hell out of him. The student loans, man, they're coming after you with guns for your student loans. Do you have student loans, Neema?
I do have student loans, and that really scares me. I looked into it. Well, I didn't look into it more further, but one of the commenters mentioned that, it was just a warrant put out by the Department of Education, and it wasn't a real SWAT team. It was just cops with guns. And I'm thinking, A, it's the same difference. It's still people busting down your door with guns.
It's just the letters on the jacket.
Right. And B, it's totally plausible to think that eventually, or even today, I could see a SWAT team coming out, in their armored car with a turret on the top, busting in and have snipers pointed at the door. And I think it's also relevant, even though this wasn't even the guy. They don't give these SWAT teams, the exact details of the case. They just say, go in, grab everybody, throw them in a car. They threw his kids in a police car for hours. They threw him in a police car for 6 hours. They were completely unrelated to the actual case. And that's standard operating procedure. And the guy's going to get no compensation. I doubt he will.
So going back to the article of the guy bashing us on American Survival blog, and then I'm going to bring it back to what we're talking about a little more and being able to buy anything anywhere and have a non-fiat currency. That guy complained in that article about Judge Napolitano being a bad person and ruining America. And I'm thinking Judge Napolitano is the only sane person on Fox except maybe Stossel and Family Guy and The Simpsons.
Yeah, that's true. And even Stossel's not perfect. I mean, I don't want to get into it too much, but Stossel's not, an anarcho-capitalist. He's still kind of a pretty minarchist libertarian.
I know you said anarcho-capitalist, but it almost said narco-capitalist. We're going to get into that a little later. So there's this forum on Facebook called Politically Incorrect and Proud of It. And it's kind of right-wing, pro-Israel, Republican, USA, fuck yeah. The lady who runs it I really like. She's cool, and she kind of gets a more libertarian attitude. She liked our movie Guns and Weed, and she posted it and posted our podcast. And I sent her this article that this guy wrote, basically saying that our movie was un-American. And I don't think she read it, or maybe she just posted it. She didn't comment on it. She just posted it. But there were 70 comments on there. None of them about the movie. All of them about the main crux of the article, which was the dance-a-thon at the Jefferson Memorial and people getting body slammed for it. And of the 70 comments on there were about 10 saying, this is horrible. The cops were way out of line. This is a violation of the Constitution. But 60 of them, and these are people who consider themselves Tea Party Americans, were everything from when the cop tells you to do something, you should do it, all the way up to these kids dancing should be shot. This is treason. And I'm not kidding. And people were serious about that. And it's aside from the fact that that's just insane and it's a violation of anything, it's if you root for things like that for the right wing, what's going to happen if Obama gets a second term? He's going to use those same powers to beat up Tea Party protesters, or the new Tea Party protesters. You can't have rights just for your side, is what I'm saying.
No, you can't. Rights go across the whole spectrum. And freedom is one thing, and we've said that 1,000 times before, but I mean the freedom to dance on a building that was built with tax dollars, which means technically if you believe in the social contract in that system, you own it. Yeah. You should be able to dance on it if you want to your heart's content. You should have a 24-hour dance-a-thon or a party if you want.
And you should not be issuing fatwas of death to people who dance on it.
To people who dance. Yeah, what are we, Saudi Arabia? No dancing on our sacred hollow Kaaba.
Saudi Arabia or Footloose.
Footloose. I'm too young for that. I don't think I ever. Was there laws against dancing in Footloose, or was it just a social horizontal?
Yeah, Footloose is like Kevin Bacon when he's 21 playing a 17-year-old. His family moves to some small town in Nebraska or Kansas, and it's a town where dancing is illegal. Which 20 years ago there were still a few towns like that, and he's from the big city, and he's sexy, and all the chicks kind of like him, and the jocks beat him up, and he's a rebel, and he organizes a barn dance, and the whole town is moved by it. Even the Christian Shareans that run the place think it's cute and like it and change their ways.
And then freedom happens.
Yeah, freedom spontaneously erupts across peace in the Midwest.
Right.
I mean the Mideast. I mean the Midwest.
Yeah. Freedom's not free. It requires a dance party.
Yeah, a dance permit. So did you see this video of the Niagara Falls transportation officer threatening a bystander for videotaping him?
No. What happened?
Oh, I'll post that link. It's just a guy videotaping a cop in public, and the cop comes over and gets up in his grill and says, "Turn that fucking camera off or I'm going to beat the shit out of you." And I'm saying that as a person, not as a cop.
Oh,
which I kind of thought was funny. As a person, not as a cop.
As a mere mundane.
Yeah, but it's also like a double entendre of like cops aren't people, he was almost saying.
Yeah.
They sure aren't when they act like that.
Well, no, I mean, that's the thing is people think of them when they're in uniform, they're an arm of the state. And I think that's part of the problem is people revere that uniform as that's a person in part of the American flag. If I attack or disagree with them, I'm disagreeing with the whole country, and that's very, very bad.
Yeah. So talk about this thing from Wired magazine about Silk Road and the drug agora.
The drug agora. This filled me with hope right here. It filled me with hope, not just about dope, but about the whole world and the freedom to come. This, I think, should be our freedom fix. Freedom fix. Silk Road. It's a website that has layers of anonymity to keep people from being, scoped by the narcs or the cops. So far,
It's through something called Tor, which is sort of like BitTorrent through a bunch of anonymous servers. Like, literally, like, you can't be caught with it.
To break it down, you could say it's mathematically impossible or logistically impossible to track it back to you, if you're on this website.
It anonymizes you into a blur.
Right. It also works for other things, but it's made possible a website called Silk Road, where you can buy any drug in an almost eBay style, or not an eBay style, but like a Craigslist, a peer-to-peer interface where, I'm looking for pot. I find a seller with good feedback, so I know that everybody who's bought from him, he hasn't been a cop. The stuff actually came through. And so it creates this trust that's completely based on the market. You pay for your product with bitcoins, which is a digital currency that you can buy completely unrelated or untied to any central bank, completely free market money, and virtual to boot. I don't want to mail somebody some gold. I can buy bitcoins and transact like that.
And to be clear, we're not endorsing breaking the law, but we're intrigued by the structure and the freedom of the system and wondering where it's going to go.
Right. The logistic superiority of the free market and how it serves people's needs better than any state or violence organized system ever could. The bad part, and I guess this could be our tyranny today. Senators are calling already, I guess it's been around for about 2 months now, senators are calling already for it to be banned and them to shut it down and take drastic action. Of course, this is going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, I think this is the front line of the fight for freedom right here. This is where we see if freedom's free and if we can have it. And I think the people who run the Silk Road are the real ones fighting for freedom.
Do they sell things besides drugs on Silk Road?
No, they're dedicated to psychoactives. But, I mean, theoretically, this business model or this website model could be applied to any number of banned items. I mean, sometimes you don't need something this anonymous now. I mean, you can still buy... I imagine you'll be able to buy light bulbs for a while just on regular websites or from eBay, people that have surplus. You can buy, the different chemicals that they've banned in dishwashing soap and laundry detergent. But theoretically, any black market thing you could start to buy like this. Maybe there'll be a clearinghouse one day. It won't be Silk Road just for drugs, but maybe there'll be a website that's more broad. I think this is really the front line, as I said, in the fight against state infiltration of the economy and state violence in people's personal lives.
Well, I see two weak points in this whole system. One is the delivery point, and the other is the bank that the money's going through. I mean, that's the two places that that Johnny Law could attack it. What do they do about that?
Well, that's the thing. That's what the Bitcoin is for as far as the bank goes. You buy Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin is anonymous, just like Tor. And Bitcoin is not specific to this website. Bitcoin is an independent currency. I don't know what the numbers are on what percentage of it is used for Silk Road. I guess you'd have to arrest or look into everybody who buys Bitcoins, and more people buy Bitcoins than buy drugs from the website. And also with the delivery, I mean, the only really way to stop that would be to check every package, and apparently there's ways that they seal the drugs in vacuum bags and hide them. I guess like people have done for years, but short of inspecting every package thoroughly as it goes through the mail, there's no really way to stop it there. I think the weak point, and I hope the bureaucrats or the NSA, when they listen to this, won't take it to heart too much, but I guess if the authorities really wanted to bring it down, what they could do is pose as sellers or pose as buyers and do it on a case-by-case basis like that. Of course, that only works once with each username because of feedback.
Yeah. Well, you're not giving them any unique ideas. That thought was in the Wired article, too.
Right. But that is the weak point.
So I'm wondering if it's possible to use this model to create a new non-fiat currency, because really, I mean, this Bitcoin is backed by money, not gold, right?
Yeah. Well, it's backed by...
I mean, you pay them money with your credit card to get Bitcoin, or you send them cash or something, right?
Right, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah. Well...
But that's not necessarily its backing, that's just the exchange. I mean, you have to exchange some kind of currency for it.
Well, would it be possible to create a Tor-based, anonymous financial network where there's a non-fiat currency backing it? Like, for instance, say...
There is digital gold. I don't know how anonymous it is.
But even without that, I mean, like something that people put into it without that. Like, for instance, if you're a graphic designer, it would kind of be like trade, but it'd be like trade for some sort of Bitcoin in between, where, like, if there's something you could do that wouldn't have to be delivered through the mail, that could be done by the internet, like porn or graphic design or word processing or writing for somebody.
Or music or video.
Video, yeah. Like media. You could do a bunch of work and put it up there and sell it, and then that would create digital chit that you would have in your online account that you could buy other services with, and maybe even other things. But I'm just trying to think of some way, maybe I'm not clever enough, but if somebody who's more clever than me can take that and run with it, like some way to create, what's the opposite of a fiat currency? What's a backed currency called?
I guess it'd just be called a backed currency.
Yeah, I mean, is there a way to create a backed currency anonymously?
Well, I guess currency is just anything that people will trade for. I mean, when you consider currency as backed by gold, all that means is people are willing to trade for certificates of gold. If you're willing to trade for digital bitcoins or any kind of digital currency, it almost backs itself. And it's not, I guess it's not fiat in the sense that it's not decided by any kind of government agency. It's decided by market interests and market forces.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess there's millions of ways, you know, and I think Bitcoin is one of them, and there probably is others that are starting or being boiled up in entrepreneurs' minds. And I mean, I guess the real sticking point is right now there still is a bunch of fiat currencies out there, and right now people still have their faith in them to some extent. I mean, I still pay with dollars at the grocery store and at the gas station. So, you know, it's hard to know how soon these things will come about and how that'll play out. And I guess a lot of that depends on the demise of the dollar and how fast that happens, if it happens and when it happens.
One of the senators that's rushing to outlaw this scheme, this plan, this system, is Charles Schumer. We love Schumer.
When the Schumer hits the fan.
I'll be surviving with my band with more AK ammo than all Afghanistan.
Man.
California, uber honest, dictating from the palace, got way bigger problems, yeah, Banning's more constant. When the Schumer hits the fan, I'll be surviving with my band, with more AK ammo than all Afghanistan. Banning should be banned, Sergeant Man.
Yeah, when the Schumer hits the fan is a way that polite people say when the shit hits the fan. I like it. I like it better than when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Because Schumer is such a nanny stater. He's shit, and he's pushing us towards the shit hitting the fan and us being able to not do anything about it. He's a big gun grabber. So was Wiener. I'm already talking about him in past tense.
Okay. My Wiener is always trying to grab my guns. At least it's not the other way around, right?
Yeah. So did you read the thing about Mexican soldiers find narco tank factory?
Narco tank factory? No, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Were they using drug money to build their own drug tanks to fight the SWAT?
Yeah.
Their own killdozers?
Killdozers, yeah. Yeah, I saw a picture of it. It looked pretty much like a killdozer.
See, now that's an interesting contest. Who builds a more deadlier disrespect for life machine, a destructive device? Is it the United States government or is it the drug cartels?
Or, you know, if you want to take it on a private level, is it Denver or is it Mexico? You going to root for the USA killdozer or that damn south of the border killdozer? Right. I think the south of this border killdozer has probably got more financing behind it than the guy in Denver had, or the guy in Colorado.
Yeah, than that guy, yeah.
But, you know, it just says to me more on how unstoppable the drug war is. It's like, it's not only literally a war, it's like they're building an army. And it's not even just an army with guys with guns. It's like, you know, pretty soon they'll have drones.
I think the government loves it, though. I think the people who make money off of weapons and war, the war profiteers, the military-industrial complex, I think they're in the back, you know, rubbing their hands together, smiling, smoking cigars when they hear news like this. They want the cartels to be powerful and violent. They don't want them to go away. The cartels are one of the scary poo sticks they hold out in front of the public to say, you must have us protect you. We're waving it in your face. So,
well, you know, it allows the DHS to roll out their new thought crime detection technology. Did you read about that?
Oh, my God. Well, I've read about similar things, but what's this specific? What's the update on it?
Oh, it's just something that searches everything and decides who's going to commit crimes so they can target them. But the more disturbing, the new thing about it was when they reported on Fox News, the news anchor called it this fascinating new technology.
Right. This fascinating new way to make us safer. We're all going to be safer, folks. Yay. Safe from our own thoughts. Safe from our own freedom, which makes me sick. It really makes me sick how people swallow these bitter little pills like it's yummy and like they're loving gifts of medicine from our masters.
Gives me a hairball.
Yeah. I'm not swallowing it.
So did you gave your puppy his short summer due?
Oh yeah, this is horrible. I have an Alaskan Malamute.
He's in the movie. He's in the movie when we say when Neema raps, they'll shoot your dog, man, with a pussy 223. We have a picture of Neema's dog. He has one eye, and you know he's never been shot with a 223 because a 223 would blow any skull apart. But yeah, we used a picture of him in there.
Yeah. So yeah, my dog has one eye. He's an Alaskan Malamute, but he's a small one. He was the runt in the litter. He probably weighs about 70 pounds.
So he looks like a husky.
People always mistake him for a husky
size.
Yeah.
Because he's small.
Right. But you can't tell. Sometimes huskies have one blue eye, one brown eye. You can't tell with him because he's only got one eye and it's brown. But we took him out, by the river and we found some ticks on him. And also my wife's been pushing me to shave him. Shave him. It's summertime. He's going to be hot. So we decided we'd buy some clippers at Walmart and give it a try. Don't ever try it. Take my advice. Don't ever try to shave a Malamute. It was like shearing a sheep. It took us 3 hours. Our whole balcony was covered with hair. But on the upside, we found like 30 ticks.
Ugh.
He was covered in them. And basically the thing about Malamutes is they have 2 coats. They have an undercoat, but their undercoat is really thick. Like it was thicker than sheep wool. It was horrible, and he was pretty badly messed up, and people were laughing at him at the dog park and saying, "What is that? Is that a Malamute? We can't tell."
Well, it was funny to me because every year we shave our cat, Fuzzy, and I sent a picture of him to you. I had the new cell phone that had a camera on it. I've never had a smartphone before, and I got one, and I was trying to figure it out, so I wanted to send you a picture because you're the only person I know. And I sent you this picture of Fuzzy, he's a Maine Coon, and he's generally very, very fuzzy. He looks like a lion, and I sent you a picture of him kind of looking like a rat. Yeah. And like 5 seconds later, you sent me a picture back of your dog looking the same way. I liked it.
He looks so much smaller, and Fuzzy does too.
I know. Fuzzy looks like a squirrel.
Yeah. I mean, my dog looks like a cat with a dog's head, is how he looks. And he only looks like that is because we didn't shave his head, his face. He's still got fur on it.
That's funny.
And he's a 70-pound dog, and he's done some amazing things as far as escaping from my house.
When you were out of town and I was house sitting for you, he destroyed the plaster on your wall trying to dig through the door.
About 4 inches, and not just drywall, but, hard back or whatever they call it, the stuff that's almost
lattice, metal lattice, and he pulled the lattice out.
Right. But more than that, he's a 70-pound dog, and he was able to squeeze through a 5-inch wide gap between my air conditioning unit and the rest of the window. and it never made sense to me because he looks huge when he has his coat, but shaved it completely makes sense. He's less than 5 inches wide. He's like the slim Kel-Tec 9mm of dogs.
Fuzzy's pretty small too when he's shaved, man. He looks big and fluffy, but he's like a sheep. We actually took him to the vet and had them do it. We pay him, it's pretty reasonable. It's $50, and they drug him and shave him and do a good job of it.
Yeah, we drugged our dog because we have, sedatives to give him when we go to work, because otherwise he'll howl all day and throw a fit.
You do that every day?
Well, there was only 2 days originally that our work days overlapped because my days off were she was working. Now it's 3 days a week. So those days where he's at home alone, we drug him. He's home right now, and I'm home right now because I'm podcasting and I'm not working, so he's not drugged right now.
I didn't know if Fuzzy was a boy or girl, because it's kind of hard to tell. And so we had the vet sex him, which is what they call determining the sex. And he's a boy.
Sex in your pussy.
But, for $50, we got him drugged, shaved, and sexed. And dude, my wife says, that sounds like dates I used to have.
Right, making sure my pussy is drugged and sexed. And
Drugged and
shaved.
sexed
Right,
and
I forgot the
shaved.
shaved. Yeah, that's the important part. No 4-inch cum
Yeah.
there.
Fascinating new shaving technology and drugging and sexing technology. Fascinating.
Indeed.
So do you know about the Facebook conspiracy theory about data mining for the CIA?
I've heard things to that effect. It makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know what the specifics of it are, but that would not surprise me at all if the CIA or any public agency. I know public agencies have made dummy Facebook profiles that try to friend you, pretty girls or whatever, and just to keep tabs on you and check out your status, making sure you're not talking about killing the president or whatever they care about these days.
You're not talking about not voting for any presidents.
Well, there was a 13-year-old boy on the west side of Washington State, which I guess also contributes to the theory that we're the 40th on the bottom of the list for freedom. But some middle school kid was pulled out by the Secret Service because he said Obama should watch out. The student said, he was warning Obama to watch out after something evil he did. And the Secret Service came up, a 13-year-old boy, because they saw a status post on his Facebook. So I buy that completely.
Ridiculous. Well, this theory isn't just that they're making profiles to look for specific people or things like that, which they are. This is a theory that it's partially funded by the government and they have backdoors to all of it. And the idea is to create a dossier on every American. Or everyone in the world.
Yeah.
Basically like what Stalin could never do, they can do. What Hitler could never do and wanted to do. What the KGB could never do by turning neighbor against neighbor. We're volunteering now. And there's something called the Information Awareness Office, the IAO, which is actually a part of the Defense Department. It's actually established under Reagan.
Yeah.
But it's basically a thing to get dossiers on Americans. And one of the high-level employees at it now works for a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley that gave a large amount of funding to Facebook.
Okay. It's not like Facebook was started necessarily by an evil government to keep tabs on you. But
absolutely not.
They're trying to push their way into it now and co-opt it.
Yeah, and they have.
Right. Which, it's also a good point, whenever you get any kind of federal or government money, it's because they're trying to co-opt you. They're trying to pull you into the system.
They're trying to have some ownership in it. I'm offended by it, but I'm not afraid of it. We're podcasting. We bug our own house, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
The most severe things I ever say, I say on here. If you bugged my house, you'd just have me saying, "Oh, baby, I love you so much. You're so cute. Let's have sex."
I kind of toned myself down for the podcast, but...
Not me. You'd hear, if you bugged my house, you'd hear, like, daily, what you'd hear in a given day is 5 minutes of sex, 8 hours of cuddling and watching Law and Order and going, "Oh, I love you," and then petting cats.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing is don't put stuff you wouldn't want the government to know on your Facebook because it's public anyway.
There's an old hippie saying, it's from that book, Steal This Book. It said, don't say anything over the telephone that you wouldn't say to a cop. And, the internet's just the new telephone, so.
Yeah.
But now your phone and your phone can tap you even when they're not tapping you, so.
Right.
You know that, right? That they can listen to your home to a phone that's on the hook. Like a landline phone, it's just sitting there, turned on, but not making a call.
Really?
They can hear what's in your home.
Really? I did not know that. I don't know what makes you say that. Like, if my phone... Because, I would be able to hear the static on the other line if a line was open.
It's not static. It's all digital. It's not done by...
So the phone is passively always recording, is the case you're saying?
It's always available, too. I don't think they have time to do it all the time, but...
Would there be anything to tip me off? Would I be able to notice? Would I hear a slight humming?
No.
No,
because it's not analog. It's like the way they used to tap phones is they'd go stick needles with wires on them in a phone line, and you would hear something then when it connects, and you'd hear a degradation of the signal. But now it's all done digital. They could just, clone one signal through the switching computers to make a tap of it. Mm-hmm. And they can do it when they're not talking on the phone.
The cell phone has to be turned on.
Well, I'm talking about landlines. They can do have landlines. I don't know if they can do it with cell phones,
Okay.
but they can definitely track you with cell phones.
Yeah, I know that.
Even if the phone's off.
Well, I guess with landlines, I mean, I haven't had a landline since freshman year of college, which was, I don't know, 7 years ago. A lot of young people don't have landlines anymore. So.
I know, it's just us old farts.
Yeah. I'd be way more worried if that could affect a cell phone.
I got nothing to hide. You know, I'm embarrassed that like 5 or 6 years ago, I said I'm not against the Patriot Act because I have nothing to hide. And now it's like I'm disgusted when I hear people say that.
Yeah.
Especially since like they can get you for anything now. You know, they can arrest you for things that aren't crimes.
Yeah. What was it? There's a book called 3 Felonies a Day. And also prosecutors can twist just about any action you do into some type of violation of regulations.
And they like to because it makes them more electable because it makes it look like they're doing something.
Yeah. And that's the work they do is they don't have to do hard work of really keeping us safe. They just have to do the easy work of infringing on people's rights, and there's ample opportunity for them to do things like that.
Yep.
Unfortunately. Well, that's a dour note, but I think we're running out of time, aren't we?
I could use a wrap up if you got one. Do you want to talk about TV shows we like now or in the next one?
Oh, we did that last podcast, didn't we?
Oh, but I've got more.
You've got more?
Yeah.
I think that's a longer discussion. Let's save that as a treat for people who are listening to the next podcast.
All right. Cool, man. I'm very psyched and very happy today, and things are good.
Well, you're going to freedom festivals, the movie's getting shown, people are catching on. There is an undercurrent of at least libertarian ideas are more out there now than I think they've ever been. And even though the state is scrambling to make things less free, I think people are waking up and realizing that that's not the way the world should work. So that's my positive outlook on life. I'm a long-term optimist.
Worms. Word.
Yep. All right. Peace.
Peace.
Hello, freedom fiends. It's your boy Dean from the U.S. Get the U.S. out my bloodstream. I owe me and that include endorphins. No one won't ask permission and I won't say please. Freedom fans, one fact that I gotta make clear is
The Freedom Fiends podcast is covered by a Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 3.0 license. Do what you want with it and spread it around. Tell 2 friends. Make copies. Email it to everyone you know. Go on the site and comment. This is a conversation. Every Friday night, we'll have an exciting new episode where Michael W. Dean and Neema Vedadi weave their own unique take on the way the world works and how to find your place in it. Available from freedomfeens.com. That's FREEDOMFEENS.com. Subscribe and tell 2 friends.
And remember, the only power they have is the power you allow them.